Imagine a king so powerful, he could rewrite reality itself. A king who controlled the temples, the armies, the scribes, and even the truth. A king who stood before millions of his people, carved his triumph into stone, and declared, "I, Ramesses, conqueror of nations, crushed the Hittites alone." But what if that victory never happened? What if the greatest pharaoh in history built his legacy on a lie so massive, it shaped how Egypt remembered him for 3,000 years? This is the forbidden story of Ramesses II, the great pharaoh who rewrote history, faked a victory, and nearly lost Egypt in one of the most disastrous battles of the ancient world, the Battle of Kadesh. And trust me, the truth is far darker than anything inscribed on temple walls. The hook, the day Ramses realized he was trapped. The desert was silent, too silent. Ramesses, leading his elite division, marched confidently through the dust, unaware that hidden in the hills around him were thousands of Hittite chariots, waiting. The pharaoh believed he was advancing toward an easy victory. Instead, he was riding straight into a trap designed to destroy him. A scout came galloping back, breathless, terrified. "Great pharaoh, the Hittites, they are not north of Kadesh. They are here." But it was too late. The ground began to shake. Wheels thundered across the dust. And from the horizon, like a black tidal wave, 2,500 Hittite chariots charged straight toward Ramesses' army. This was not a battle. It was an ambush. The lie begins: Ramesses' beautifully organized army shattered like glass. His divisions were scattered. Men ran. Horses panicked. Chariots overturned. Some historians believe the pharaoh himself nearly died, surrounded by enemies, saved only because a reserve division, one he didn't even command, rushed in by chance. But Ramesses could not afford to be remembered as the king who lost Egypt's mightiest battle. So he did something only a king who controlled the narrative could do. He lied, and carved that lie into stone. In every temple across Egypt, Luxor, Abu Simbel, Karnak, Ramesses ordered artists to depict him as the mighty warrior who single-handedly crushed the Hittites, firing arrows from his chariot like a god descended from the heavens. He had himself drawn larger than life, running down entire battalions alone. He even wrote speeches bragging about his victory, claiming the gods themselves witnessed his unstoppable courage. But these carvings hide a truth he never wanted Egypt to know. Ramesses didn't win the Battle of Kadesh. He barely survived it. The war ended not with victory, but with Egypt signing the first recorded peace treaty in human history because neither side could win. Yet for thousands of years after, Egyptians read the walls and believed, "My king was a god, my king won." That is the terrifying power of a ruler who controls history itself. Ramesses didn't just rewrite history, he engineered a propaganda machine that would make modern governments jealous. The moment he returned to Egypt, exhausted, humiliated, and furious, he summoned every scribe, every sculptor, every artisan who carved the stories of Egypt into eternity. And with a voice that tolerated no disagreement, he commanded, "You will record my victory, not what happened, but what should be remembered." This was the birth of one of history's greatest manufactured legends, the propaganda of a god king. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh wasn't just a ruler. He was a living god, a son of Ra, the chosen of Amun. And gods do not lose battles. They do not retreat. They do not panic. So Ramesses crafted the perfect illusion. Across Egypt's temples, his artists carved him in divine perfection. Arm drawn back, bow stretched to the heavens, muscles sculpted like a warrior king, horses galloping beneath him like thunder, enemies scattering like insects before his glory. One relief shows Ramesses in his chariot, reins tied around his waist so he can use both hands to fire arrows. An impossible feat, but a powerful myth. Another carving shows him personally slaying over 1,000 Hittite soldiers, alone. And in the center of it all, a massive inscription declaring, "No general, no soldier, no man stood with me. I fought alone. I won alone." To the average Egyptian, most of whom never traveled beyond their village, these carvings were truth. If it was etched in stone, if it was blessed by the priests, if it showed their god-king triumphant, then it must be real. Ramesses understood something chilling. History belongs to the hand that writes it. How the truth leaked out. For centuries, no one questioned the story. Who would dare? But deep in the Hittite capital, scribes were writing their own version of the battle. And their clay tablets told a very different story. Ramesses didn't win. The Hittites didn't win. Both sides were exhausted, bleeding, and desperate. The battle was a stalemate, a disaster. And the only reason it ended was because neither empire had the strength to continue. Yet Egypt never saw those tablets. For 3,000 years, Ramesses' version remained the only version. It wasn't until archaeologists in the 19th century uncovered the Hittite archives that the world realized. The greatest pharaoh in history built his reputation on a lie. But here's the real twist. Ramses' lie worked. The lie becomes his legacy. By the time historians discovered the truth, Ramses had been dead for nearly 3 millennia. But during that time, he became the most remembered pharaoh, the most copied, the most celebrated. Egyptians worshipped him long after his death. His statues towered above cities. His temples survived entire empires. Even the Bible may reference him as the Pharaoh of the Exodus, all because he claimed a victory he never won. And the world believed him, because that is the terrifying power of a lie carved in stone. The truth about Ramesses II isn't just that he lied, it's that he weaponized the lie. He understood something far more dangerous than any army, any chariot, any sword. If people believe you are a god, you don't have to win the war. You only have to win the story. And Ramesses won the story so completely that even today, 3,200 years later, people still call him Ramesses the Great. But what he did after the Battle of Kadesh, that is where his true genius and darkness comes alive. The psychological war Ramesses knew Egyptians feared chaos more than anything. A weak king meant a weak kingdom. A weak kingdom meant famine, invasion, collapse. So he doubled down on the illusion. Every festival, every public gathering, every ceremony had one purpose: remind the people that their pharaoh was unbeatable. Actors reenacted his victory. Priests recited hymns praising his courage. Poets performed verses describing how the gods protected him alone on the battlefield. Even children in schools were taught about the hero of Kadesh. By the end of his reign, an entire generation grew up believing Ramesses was a warrior blessed by the heavens, not a king who barely escaped with his life. Fear kept their loyalty. Propaganda controlled their memory, and repetition cemented the myth. Ramesses didn't just lie. He trained Egypt to believe the lie was sacred. The real reason he lied. Most people think he lied to protect his pride, but the truth is far deeper. Kadesh was more than a battle. It was a fight for dominance between two superpowers, Egypt and the Hittite Empire. If Egypt believed their king failed, doubt would spread, enemies would circle, rebellions would grow. Ramesses understood that empires don't fall because of one defeat. They fall because people believe their king can be defeated. So he replaced military victory with something even more powerful: myth. He turned himself into a legend so big that no one questioned him again. He went on to rule for 66 years, one of the longest reigns in human history. He built more monuments than any pharaoh before or after. He fathered over 100 children. He lived long enough to outlast his enemies, and even his own sons, all because he crafted one lie so monumental that it protected his throne until his dying breath. The final truth: when archaeologists opened his mummy in 1881, they found a man with worn bones, battle injuries, and a body exhausted by age. Not a god, not a myth, just a king. A king who understood that stories shape reality, not victories. In the end, the Hittites won the battle for truth, but Ramesses won the war for memory. And memory is what history becomes. History is filled with kings who forged their own legends. But few did it with the brilliance and darkness of Ramesses II. If you want more stories of rulers who created myths, rewrote reality, and manipulated entire empires, subscribe, because the past is darker than you think, and we're just getting started.